to build a rich, vibrant, playful, fun, caring community. I think that would satisfy a lot of people's thirst for friendship in this young adult stage of life. What do you
Oh
think?
yeah, I think that's awesome because the friendships you make when you are headed in the same direction, doing the same thing, are
Mm,
definitely deeper, more fulfilling, and I'd love to meet others coming on this path.
yeah. I heard, like when I was trying to find my friends post high school, they say go towards what you want to go after. Walk, run towards it. And then every once in a while, look to your left and look to your right. Like
Yes.
they're moving in the same directions. Those are your friends, and then link arms with them. Think in the same way, anyone who has a caring heart that wants to care for a kid from a hard place, go after it. And you will meet Sarah and people like Sarah that are likely already doing it. And we can help you co-build that community. Who was the mentor in your life who made all the difference? Or maybe you didn't have one. Who did you need back then? Welcome to the Mentoring Partnership of Miami County podcast, where we shine a light on those walking alongside kids with harder stories here in our community. If you want to show up for a kid from a hard place, complete the no commitment form in the description and we'll guide you down the path that best fits you. Now join us as we explore the transformative power of showing up and how becoming the person you needed can change a child's life, and maybe even your own. Listener, I want to introduce you to Sarah Pierce. There are many people that said you should connect with Sarah, and she is the founder of Pink Power Pest Control at the age of, Sarah, how old are you?
19.
19. How wonderful is that? I first met Sarah observing her caring for kids from hard places at Troy Skate Church. So, Sarah, how long have you been at Troy Skate Church?
I'd say a little over a year now.
And how often do you show up?
I show up 1 to 2 times a week. It used to be more two. It's becoming more 1.5 now.
We talked about, when I first met you, kind of your ability to show up in these unstructured environments of mentoring and understanding how to connect. Like it's not always intuitive for everyone. And when we were talking earlier, we had this image of kind of like this wild jungle and forest. It seems like overwhelming, but you were able to cut a path through for the past year and continue to build connection after connection after connection. How do you think that you're able to do that? What is it about your wiring? Help us see how we can follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, I think it's a lot because I was raised by entrepreneurial parents. So I'm used to in life redirecting and redirecting and redirecting. So I've always been a more socially awkward person, which I don't come off as, but I am. Social cues, I don't always get them, so it's kind of awkward. But I think through that, I'm really good at working with younger people because if something goes really weird or really awkward, I'm really good at just diverting and seeing it as just another lesson. And maybe don't say it that way again, or maybe they just had a bad day and you can dig deeper into why you got that reaction.
So, like in these unstructured environments, there's these kids that are kind of flowing around and they want to be in a safe place and they probably want connection to relationship, but it's not always easy for them either or trusting. And so, what are some of the lessons or the values from the world of entrepreneurship or creativity that you practice that allows you to continue to show up?
I think a big thing is every situation is either a success or a learning opportunity. So if you don't make a sale, you get to look back on why you didn't make it or maybe why the situation wasn't made for you. And I think you can do the same in helping others. You can go in and be really awkward and be like, I don't know if this is going to work out. You can say the things, try to talk to the kids. And if they react badly, you can then look, was it something I said, what I did, or was the situation just not set up for me? And the great thing about if it wasn't set up for you is you can just go back again and create it for you. So even if it's not your situation, you can still fit yourself into it.
Yeah, I think in the world of business, they say feel fast and feel forward. But I heard you say
Yes.
you're either succeeding or learning. Like even if you
Yes.
don't do something that you feel like, oh, I didn't nail it this time, or nothing really happened, maybe your grit from like building and growing a business helps you say, no, actually, like I want connection. I want to care for these kids. These kids want connection. I just have to sh- figure it out.
Yes.
Yeah,
100.
cool. Yeah. And we say that showing up is 90% of mentoring. So a lot of times, like adults feel, let me be really clear. One of the big reasons for this interview, Sarah and listener, is for this to find the ears of a young adult, someone who between graduating high school and maybe getting married or having their first kid, there is a certain capacity of time that one could leverage to show up. You said weekly to Troy Skate Church, so at least weekly. So
Yes.
52 to 75 times you have put your presence there in that space, and it's become trustable. And
Yeah.
we want a young adult to say, "I can do that too." And we're going to put in the show notes this video that's about 4 minutes called "How to Start a Movement." And Sarah, I sent it to you, and it's about this like
Mhm.
crazy person on a hill dancing, and then there's like a second person that comes, and then that lone nut becomes not a lone nut anymore. Now it's like fun, and then they usher a third person, so now it's three people dancing, and then soon enough, there's you can't not join the dance party. And
Yes.
sometime when I first witnessed you doing this mentoring work and just watching you engage in different ways with these different kiddos, I saw you not as like the lone nut because John and Sammy are kind of the
Oh
first,
yeah.
the first lead, but you became that first follower that made it normal for other people. So tell me to speak out to young adults for us and invite them into this journey.
Yes, I think it's awesome when young adults come along. We definitely have the most time. Even though I'm an entrepreneur, and that means that I'm like super busy with work, I definitely understand I don't have to go home to kids. I just have to worry about my parents wanting me home for dinner sometimes. So they like it when I show up. But I know that my evenings are the most free that they will ever be, and everyone in my age group is in that same situation typically, no matter what work looks like.
Yeah. So, however many young adults there are, we hope that they hear this conversation and they do take a step forward to say, I do want to care for a kid from a hard place. We have another interview about those who are empty nesters and retired, and they're not retiring, they're refiring. But they're these two ends of the spectrum of life. If they both care for kids together,
Mhm.
that develops such a fun, multi generational wisdom joy community. I really like that image. So for the past 52 to 75 times that you've shown up at Troy Skate Church, share with us kind of like what that journey has been. Remember back to the very first time that you showed up and what that was like for you kind of internally. And then, what has evolved and changed with you on the inside and in your relationships on the outside.
Yeah, so the first time I went in, I definitely remember the first era of it feeling very awkward because I've never been part of skating, skate community, any of the hobbies that these kids tend to be getting into, positive or negative. And so it was definitely scary walking in because I was like, how in the world am I going to relate to people who are skating, probably doing drugs? I think I saw them smoking outside right before this. Um, but I learned that through my life, I've learned that people are people. So through
Hmm.
that, walking in the first time, I try to see people as not older, younger, rich, poor, whatever, but they are people, and every person wants to find the person that wants to see them. So I guess starting out, it was just making my presence known in their life so that they see that someone does care. And as I fumbled forward, I learned to see a lot of the kids and I learned their situations, their background. And so I was able to have much deeper, more prevalent conversations with them and see some real changes in their lives, which even not through deep conversation, just through high-low buffalo. And now every time I go, there, can we do high-low buffalo? And yes. So it's super fun to see the relationships build.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I think we should not demystify that. I think people should show up and figure that out for themselves. Uh, so tell us more about like that evolution internally in some of those relationships. I don't know to the level of depth that you've connected. Maybe like what's changed in your life? What are some of the stories that you've heard? Um, yeah, what's it been like being a consistent, caring adult?
Yeah, I think internally, I have grown even more in my understanding of people from a different background.
Yeah.
Internally, it helps because I came from a very strict Christian home my whole life, and they did not. So it helps me internally see them as the people that they are, but also see others like the person you would always judge, but you're able to now see them in a completely different light. So there's that great internal work that happens. And then also in my relationships with the kids, at least one of them I just talked to on a very surface level basis. And then one day he told me that he was starting to vape and he was buying a vape. And we had a conversation. And then a few weeks later, he let me know that he ended up selling it, or not selling it, throwing it away. And so it's awesome to see those relationships that you don't know anything's happening. You think you're just sitting there and talking about skateboards, but really the care that you give does change things.
Yeah. Trust builds over time, and you've proven yourself to be trustworthy and trustable. You consistently show up. I What makes you care? Like why do you want to show up for these people?
I think that's something I've thought about a lot because I was never around anything other than goody two shoes, basically. But then I babysat my first foster kid a few years ago and fell in love with
Oh.
the underprivileged or under taught. And so I think I
Mm,
continue to show up because I see the value that they hold and I see
mm,
how badly their value can be twisted when they have
mm,
the wrong influences. And I see how much their value can be built up to bless others when it's curated correctly. So I just want to be that positive influence that hopefully helps turn the wheel in the right direction. And then they can be a powerful force for their passions in the positive direction.
mm. Cool. Cool. So I imagine that so you have this heart call for this. You're figuring out maybe why your heart breaks, and that'll probably evolve over time. And it'll probably revolve around, you know, not necessarily those people, but like Alex, like name a name,
Yes.
whatever their name is. Like you're just your heart just continues to just grow for the lovable, likable person that they are, and you get to show them that they are lovable and likable, and that probably gives you joy. Uh, Tell me maybe a little bit about the joy that comes with being there so many times and some of the fun and play that you get to experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I've never skated before or like skateboarded. So I think a fun thing for me is I'm super into trying new things. I just don't often have the opportunity to do so. But through being there and showing up, I didn't get on a skateboard for months, but they always asked me to, and I was always like, no, no. And it was really joyful the first time I did because they were all so excited. They're like, Sarah, the one who always sits on the sidelines, is letting us teach her. And it was super fun to learn because there's this one kid who's about 14 or 15, and he is an awesome coach. He's like stellar. So I did some cool things, whatever. And it was so fun to see how excited he was to teach, that he was like teaching
Mm,
someone older than him. And then it was also super fun to learn. Like, it wasn't just me helping out, it was super fun.
mm. Yeah, I think, when I first, like John and Sammy are friends. And so when I first talked to them about skate church and skating and all those things, I didn't really get it. And then later they told me that 50% of the people that come, like, actually don't skate and never skate. But for those who do, that's where they get to practice resilience and grit and risk taking and failing and proving themselves and building bonds and you humbly like entered into that and said, I'm gonna suck and there's no way I'm gonna be like good, but I'm gonna allow myself to look like a fool or look foolish or whatever. And in process, like what happened? It
Yeah, I
seems
think
like they celebrated and rallied around you.
yeah. Yeah, they're awesome at that.
Like really endearing and supportive and encouraging.
Yes, the whole skate community is much more encouraging and it builds a ton of grit. It's awesome watching them interact with each other and with themselves, and it's actually really inspiring.
Yeah. I like this. And, the word encourage literally means to put the courage in you. And, when I first came and watched you and then introduced myself after, and I was like, Sarah, I've been watching you for like 30 minutes. You're so good at just being. You can just, you know, touch point here, conversation here. And we encourage folks, like, when you come to show up for a kid from our place, like, one, figure out how you like to play, like bring your joy and your interest because that's contagious. But then also be really interested and curious how they like to play and be playful in that way, which I think I witnessed you doing both. And my son was there, he's a 9-year old, and there was a kid who like gravitated to my son and literally would not stop teaching him for like 45 minutes the first time he got there. And it was all about putting courage like into my son. And it was so endearing. And I imagine that you over these 50 to 75 times have been able to witness that over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, it is awesome seeing them teach each other, and new kids they don't they just walk in and they're just loved on, and it's not a divisive community at all. They definitely join in the new guy and treat them like they're old buddies.
Okay, so tell us again. You came to this place and you started interacting with these kids. What did you do the first couple of months? Like, how did you take those first small steps in like connecting with a kid from our place on a heart level or a head level or a playful level? Like, break it down, like unpack it, demystify it, so that someone, a young adult or anyone else, can walk in the door and say like, okay, I am going to go through this transformative process of figuring this out for myself. So what was it like for you?
Yeah, I think a very helpful thing was John and Sammy being there, and I'm close to them. So it definitely helped demystify the situation for me. So I think there is a level of confidence that comes with walking into a situation where you already either know one person or you can relate to one person. But even walking in the times that they weren't there the first few times, I think a great helpful thing was they have communal seating. So I would just sit down somewhere. People would naturally sit near you just because there's not that much seating. And so I would ask them about their skateboard or where do you go to school? And these are very basic questions that they don't get the deepest of conversations, but they at least break the weirdness of you're older than me, I'm younger than you, what are you doing here?
Why are you here?
So definitely, yes, asking them just tiny little snippets that, and then moving into open-ended questions where they might talk a little longer once they're comfortable actually speaking to you.
That's really powerful. People who study kind of human interaction talk about 3 layers of questioning, and it's okay to like do all three. The not doing the deepest question first is really wise. You want to
Yeah.
very slowly engage with deeper questions, but understanding that deeper questions is a sacred space. In many ways, I think mentors show up thinking that they have the right to speak into people's lives or that they have the right to like ask those questions, and they don't. They haven't earned the right yet. I love that you come in, what I perceive it as is like honor. Like you are honoring someone's process, someone's story, their level of trust and connection, and you ask these like low level questions, mid level, deep level questions. You know how to maybe use finesse, like you're able to lean in and lean out at the appropriate times. I think many people, when they think mentor, they like automatically think open ended, deep questions or something like that. Rather, you understand that the natural process of building a relationship takes all different levels, and you honor that. So, kind of unpack that so that my hope is that people hear like, oh, I don't have to like mentor. I just have to be present and show up, and I can, you know, play around with questions.
Yeah, so I think to unpack that, I think it definitely plays into my childhood. I was raised by a more socially awkward father. So I listened to a lot of audiobooks that he gave me about having conversations with other people. And so
Huh.
that's the background that I now come into understanding that I love deep conversations. And so I've learned how to get there. And so I always you start surface level because no one's going to let you into their house until they think you're a cool person type idea. So I always start super surface level, asking about school, do you have pets? And then I listen for a trigger in their words. So let's say they say my
Mm.
pet Rocky, but she's not doing too well. Or I
Mm.
just listen for little triggers and they say, "Oh, what's going on with Rocky?" So that's like a mid-level question. And then they might say that she's going to die soon and they don't really like death. And then it could be like, "Oh, wow, what's your experience been with death before?" So you can kind of that's a very quick try level, but that's how a try level can kind of happen even when you're not expecting it to.
Yeah. And yeah, I've heard people say like, um, trust is, you can knock on the door and someone can hide and they can say, nope, you ain't coming into this house. Um, Never peer through people's windows into their soul. Like you're not invited there, right? But if somebody invites you in for a conversation, you can ask for different, things. But when people say, "Can you help me rearrange the furniture?"
Hmm.
or "Can you help me get rid of pests?" Got that. Or "Can you help me
Yeah.
clean? Or can you help me, understand?" Like there's a growing level of, connection and intimacy that it
Mhm.
takes to in some for some kids from hard places, relationships are at the absolute most scariest thing in the world for them.
Yeah.
And so for them, deep connection might be those lower level questions for like a long time and
Mhm.
never really knowing what's going on below the surface, what's healing, what trust is being built. We say that all pain happens in relationships. Thus, all healing comes through relationships. And so if in you and your intuitiveness or your learning or your lived experience, you've been able to understand and figure out where someone is and honor wherever they are in that
Mhm.
process. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, you definitely have to learn.
Hmm.
You hear the triggers, but you have to learn from their body language if you're able to go along with the trigger or if you need to let it pass and just ask another surface level question or just sit there in silence.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, not talk for a long time.
Sounds
I
weird, but
think
sometimes
some
that's
people want to fill space. I think that our culture is really used to that. But there's so much going on inside of a person's mind and heart, and silence is therapeutic, especially if you're willing to be there. Willing to just like reflect back or observe what someone is doing or saying, interesting, or Tell me more, like not filling the space, not necessarily even asking questions the whole time. I like that you brought up like silence and listening. Can you maybe tell a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, especially with a lot of the kids I'm talking to since I'm 19, they're like 14, so we're basically the same generation. I think a lot of our generation is very uncomfortable with silence. We've always had either music, podcasts, TV shows. And
Mm,
so I think sometimes inviting in the silence can bring a lot of connection because then they realize that you're there even though they're not giving anything. They're not giving you entertainment by answering your questions, and they're not giving you validation by asking you questions, but you're still there with them even though they're not they're not providing you any enjoyment.
mm, mm. Man, that's healing. So what I hear you saying is like you are valuable regardless of what you do, say, entertain me, how you fill the space. Like I simply want to be. It's almost like I have a friend who was like during his bachelor party, everyone said Rob is so amazing at wasting time with people, and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
it was true. He was unhurried in his friendships. It was like it doesn't matter what you're doing, what you're providing, what entertainment. It was just like the fact that you were you. I could just be here because you yourself are valuable.
Yes.
You've witnessed some of these kids like receive that and it fills them up. It fills up their cup and they come back for more when you show up.
Yeah, I think I like to ask the highs and the lows of the week and stuff because that just it's an easy conversation
Mm,
starter that they enjoy. And I've
yeah.
noticed a lot of times, sometimes they'll be thinking about an answer and then another kid will chime in and I'll be like, "Hey, let's let them have a second to think." Because it kind of that's a natural way to enter in that silence and let them know they're allowed to process, and I'm kind of defending
Mm,
their process, not in a mean way, but in a like it actually matters. And so I'm going to say that it matters.
mm. It's kind of like you're protecting the message that they matter.
Yeah.
If someone else is trying to like fill that, you're like, no, I actually like want to hear from you, which I bet in the moment that other kid was like, hey, wait a second, like, don't you want to hear from me? I have an answer. But that also teaches them like when it's your turn, I'm going to protect everyone else from
Yeah.
entering into your space when I give you that attention that is healing.
Yeah. I've never had anyone be upset about it. They might be hurt in the moment, but then their turn comes and I do defend their space and they're super excited. So it works out.
That's so cool. Good. Well, at the top of this interview, it's not
Mhm.
interview. At the top of this conversation, we we wanted to have a call out and an invitation to young adults and to wonder how many young adults out there could show up once a week, once every other week, in an unstructured space like Skate Church, Troy Rec, YMCA, like somewhere else like that, the barn, or in a structured environment where they do one-on-one mentoring, during the school hours or Big Brothers Big Sisters. Can you just kind of flesh out that invitation again, Sarah? Just like roll out the red carpet.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we don't know what's out there. Definitely didn't know about Skate Church until John and Sammy brought it up. Even though I knew them, I didn't know they did this until they brought it up. So I think reaching out to someone like Mentoring Partnership and having someone tell you what you actually can be involved in, because we do have a lot of time when we think about it. When we look at our screen time, we have a lot of time, and sometimes you think I can't help out because I work in the evening, so I'm busy during the day, or vice versa. And if you reach out, you can actually learn about a ton of opportunities. And really, all that matters is that you're there. And the nice part about an unstructured place is if you're 5 minutes, do I like being late? No. But if you're 5 minutes late and it's just a 3, 4 hour open time, no one's upset. You're not letting anyone down. So it's a very flexible way to help people a lot.
Yeah, and thank you for that. It I we before this we were talking like you're also accessible. Like when
Oh, yeah.
if people wanted to kind of talk to you, learn from you, witness, watch, they can connect with you. We'll put your email in
Yeah.
the show notes. Reach out to us. We can connect you personally and they can have a conversation. Whether you want to like plant yourself where Sarah is at Choice Gate Church or you want to be anywhere else, you could connect with Sarah. Right?
Oh, yeah, totally. I'm happy to walk through because it's a mental process for sure, especially if you didn't grow up being pushed into weird situations.
Yeah, being comfortable with being uncomfortable and the
Yes.
growth and the joy that comes from gaining confidence and competence in getting through that. Um, One thing that I would hopefully be like super excited about,
Hmm.
like this would be amazing if this happened, is some of the young adult friends that I have say that it's really hard to like find friends or make community. High school was like just chocked full of constant social interaction. And then now you're like working or you're going to school and there's a change in how like your common interests. There's not like sports and things like that. So what I would love is that there's like this varied young adult community that says like we want to be friends together. We have a common set of values and we don't want to just try to figure out life and how we're wired and designed and what we're supposed to do in life like our on our own. We want to do that together. We want to be on mission together. We want to care for the next generation together. We want to, like my friends right now, I'm 36. I have friends who are 46, 50, 60, 65, 70, 75. And like these young adults, whoever they mentor, like that's not too far away, even though the distance feels, far now. So not only those who are being mentored, but also the other young adults to build a rich, vibrant, playful, fun, caring community. Like that would be so. I think that would satisfy a lot of people's thirst for friendship in this young adult stage of life. What do you
Oh,
think?
yeah. I think that's awesome because it's definitely not hard. It's it's easier to make friends when you go to just a young adult group or something where people are just hanging out. But the friendships you make when you are headed in the same direction, doing the same thing, are
Mm.
definitely deeper, more fulfilling. And I'd love to meet others coming on this path.
Yeah, yeah. I heard like when I was trying to like find my friends post high school, they say like go towards what you want to go after. Like walk, run towards it. And then every once in a while look to your left and look to your right.
Yes.
Like they're moving in the same directions. Those are your friends and then link arms with them. Think in the same way, anyone who has a caring heart that wants to care for a kid from a hard place, like go after it. And you will meet Sarah and people like Sarah that are likely already doing it. And we can help co-build that community. Whether you graduate high school and you go straight into the workforce like you did, you either working or create a business like you did, or you go to college, university, maybe you go to Edison, or maybe you do go to college and you come back during the summers or you stay local in some kind of way. We want to help a whole array of young adults kind of enmesh together and care for kids from hard places together. Yeah. Cool. Well, Sarah, any parting thoughts, inspirations?
I'd say just push into the uncomfortable. That's where you're going to find your joy and your growth in life.
Yeah, that's where, when we first sat down to talk about this conversation, that's what you really wanted people to take away from it is that even though it might feel uncomfortable, and actually, this is something that I want to maybe end on, is that there's a lot happening when you mentor a kid from a hard place on the inside of yourself and on the inside of themselves.
Hmm.
And when I walk into an environment like Troy Rex Gate Church or any others, what we see externally is not what's going on. That's just what's happening around us. But on the inside, so much is happening. And we want to really help people see the unseen, see the invisible things that are going on. And so that's the pushing into the uncomfortable and being consistent and caring and getting through that and figuring it out week after week. So again, I guess tell us, make that adventure tangible for a young adult? Like, what is going on?
I think there's a ton of things you don't see. I've seen kids get over a lot of bad habits. I've seen them go from hanging out with people that are trying to stray them away to then trying to bring their friends back on the right path. And you don't see it every time. You don't see it usually, but every once in a while in a random offset conversation, you'll get a glimpse, and it's really pretty when you...
Like compounded interest, the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah.
Like over time, you get to witness the compounded interest of the investment of your time in the fruit of like transformation, really of love and care that's happening in your own hearts and in them. So thanks, Sarah. You are such a gift, and I'm excited for people to share this out so that they can get to know you, and ultimately so that more kids can receive a Sarah in their lives.
Thank you, Paul.
Wow. Wasn't that conversation powerful? Chances are, while you were listening, someone else was coming to mind. You wanted them to listen in too. And on behalf of a child, send this episode their way. And if you care about these kids, take a moment right now to subscribe, rate, and review. Because when you do, the algorithm helps more people find these conversations, to find the voice of these kids. And each small step you take help more adults show up for a child with a harder story. If you want to explore how you can show up, fill out the no commitment form in the description of this episode. Because only together can we help more kids find the support they need. And only together can we help more adults step into the story they were made for.